Hey everyone, you joined the midweek democracy-ish check-in with myself and the fantabulous Danielle Moody. And I was just telling Danielle, I'm so tired. And she's like, what else is new? Because I was up late at night instead of relaxing. I got the results, like we all did, of Eileen Higgins being elected as the first Democratic mayor of Miami in nearly 30 years, the first non-Latino in more than 30 years, and the first woman. And then we also had the special election in Georgia, which the Republicans dummy-mandered because they thought, aha, we're gerrymandering.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, you could use that. The dummy mandering, which, by the way, might like actually be a sign of things to come. And then a Democrat won that special election by nearly more than 1.5 points. And then all the horrible, no good news are coming out with all the poll numbers, with young people fleeing. Tucker Carlson, folks, is now openly mocking and ridiculing Donald Trump. We'll get into it. Nancy Mace is criticizing GOP leadership. Marjorie Taylor Greene says, I'm not MAGA, I'm America first. You're seeing the Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens fallout. So the framing of today is like their daddy Trump, the MAGA coalition. Now, I'm not saying the neo-Nazis, the Groypers, the right wing, but the MAGA coalition is also dying. So let's start with the good news for once, Danielle. Late last night, for the first time, like I said, in nearly 30 years, Eileen Higgins defeated the Trump reek, a Latino man that Trump endorsed. And Danielle, everyone was expecting that she'd win. Some people thought 5 points. Some people thought maybe 7 points. That itself would be a shellacking. Danielle, she won by nearly 19 points. Your response?
I mean, one, I don't, were a lot of people thinking that she was going to win? Because I thought that it was like the the fact is, Miami hasn't had a Democratic mayor in 30 years,
Yeah,
and they have
28 years.
never,
Yeah.
yeah, it's 30 years, and they've never had a woman. And the reason why that Miami consistently goes Republican is because of their very overwhelming large Cuban population. And as I don't know why. I had no idea why Cubans have always been reliably Republican, but I'm assuming that now, as you see that Donald Trump is what's that word that people seem to forget? A fucking liar, and said that he was only going to go after those that didn't come to this country the right way, and that he was only going to go after those that were criminals. They thought that they were going to be protected, right? And the fact is, they have seen over the last 11 months, finally, I guess, opening up their eyes to what the rest of us have seen for the last 10 years, is that Donald Trump is a liar. And that when he states, oh, we're going after the criminals, oh, you mean like the landscaper? You mean like the hairdresser? You mean like the politician that you roughed up? You mean like the priest that you're shooting with rubber bullets? Um, so I think that it's exciting. The 19 points is pretty much like this Southern Florida saying fuck you to Donald Trump. And rightfully so. And I think that, we're beginning to see this tear off of MAGA, like people peeling off of the larger scale of MAGA because, frankly, what we've said on Democracy Ish, fascism and white nationalism isn't a winning strategy. It is actually a strategy for defeat. It is actually a strategy for your demise. It is unsustainable. Right. And eventually it begins to eat itself. We're seeing that, Waj. But I mean, I guess my question to you is that, look, I know we're going to talk about Georgia as well. And we're going to talk about the rumors of the big resignations that Mike Johnson is going to have to deal with in the House. And we're seeing this, though, coupled with the escalation in violence and rhetoric towards Somalis, towards Haitians, towards basically just any Black and brown person. We're
Yep.
seeing the violence by ICE and the fact that United States citizens are speaking about being sexually assaulted by ICE and that not being headline news.
Mhm.
When you take these things together, I mean, do you think that MAGA is really dying? Do you really think that, like, we're going to see its end, or are we going to see a continued escalation as we move into this new year because of these defections and the fact that they have to continue to mask and spin this alternate reality that they want us all to live in?
So speaking about in Georgia, for those who aren't following the news, there was a special election for a Georgia House seat during an off year yesterday, and Eric Gisler, a Democrat, won with 50.85% of the votes compared to the Republican candidate with 49.15% of the votes. Folks, this again was dummy-mandered. Thank you, Republicans. They expected to pick up another seat easily, but nope. The people said nah, and then there was a special election which the Democrat won. We have I want to hear a quote Daniel Nikanian, who's the editor of Bolts Mag. He does great numbers, and he said one startling stat captured just how badly this year has gone for the GOP. Democrats flipped 21% of all GOP-held legislative seats at play. They made gains in 6 states this year, right? And then last month, we saw double-digit win in New Jersey, double-digit win when it comes to Virginia. Mamdani, despite them throwing everything and the billionaires and Islamophobia and Bill Clinton at him, nearly wins by 10 points. And then we also saw the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, right? Another huge election last month. Liberals won. We saw Elon Musk spending a record number, I think it was more than $20 million in the other Supreme Court race, which he lost, right? And so we are seeing I've seen enough data now, Danielle. This is not just a one-off. This is a movement. This is a complete and utter rejection of the MAGA agenda, of the hate. Donald Trump is negative double digits on the economy, negative double digits on immigration, which used to be his one strong issue. Majority of people, like you said, are disgusted by ICE because they see them terrorizing their communities, literally shooting tear gas at white priests, tackling white shopkeepers. Still Epstein. It ain't going to go away, folks. It ain't going to go away. He's negative 35 on Epstein. And with Latinos in particular, I recommend people watch the video I did late last night with Mike Madrid. I was exhausted drinking my chai. He was in LAX. And he said, Waj, I introduced him and saying, there's no such thing as a Latino voter. Cubans, like you said, in Florida vote different. Venezuelans vote different. Latinos in the border vote different. Latinos in California vote different. But he says, for the first time of me following this in 30 years, he said, we might actually have a Latino bloc against MAGA. And Harry Enton earlier today showed the hemorrhaging Latino support. He went from barely underwater in February to, with Latinos, guys, negative 38. So you talked about young people. It's like plus negative 50 turnaround. We talked about how he's losing women. We talked about how he's hemorrhaging a little bit from his base, 5 to 10%. If you just look at the Latino voters, they can't afford in places like Texas and Florida and other stuff to lose negative. If you got Cubans aligning with like Mexicans and Venezuelans going against MAGA, these diehard, dyed in the wool, my daddy voted Republican, my granddaddy voted Republican, I vote Republican. That is a massive repudiation. And to me, what I think we're witnessing is a repudiation of dying Donald Trump. We'll get into he's dying. We'll get into that. But we're seeing, oh shit, the MAGA agenda has failed. It's going to get worse. We have no healthcare policy. The economy, as we've discussed, is going to get worse. We're going to talk about that. Some more numbers came out today that paint a picture. My fear, Danielle, that I've always said, is the death rattle of white supremacy, which became the death march with their avatar, Donald Trump. What they're doing right now is you're seeing Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, we'll talk about that as well, Nick Fuentes and others now pivoting away from MAGA. Marjorie Taylor Greene said, oh, no, no, no. I'm not MAGA. MAGA is Donald Trump. I'm America first. And so what they're going to do is try to recalibrate what's left from these splinters and these fissures. And we're going to talk about these splinters because they're just so exquisite, these fights that are happening within MAGA. And I think what they're going to do and what they are doing, what we predicted on this show, they're going to try to get over a lot of young people, independent people, pissed off people by being more to the left of the Democratic establishment on Israel. They're going to try to get people on affordability, and they're going to do their culture war, and they're going to try to kind of like capture this. So what's going to happen, unfortunately, for America is we're now dealing with neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and white Christian nationalists. The hoods are off. And there's no going back now because that doubling down, like you said, that Trump is doing, which Axios reported, he has no other plays left. The economy's shit. The immigration policies, it's done. So he's literally last night, as Eileen Higgins won the special election, folks, Trump desperately, because he's sick and dying, went out to Pennsylvania. I don't know if you saw that rally. And
It looked like it happened in a barn. Do
did
you
you
know
see
what I'm
it?
saying? It looked like shit, right? It
And
wasn't
what did he
big.
say? What did he say at the rally?
It wasn't big, it wasn't impressive. He was supposed to be at the rally, I believe, talking about affordability, and then he went off on talking about shithole countries and why can't we get people from Denmark and people from the Netherlands, like whatever, Norway, whatever white fucking countries he was talking about. But here's the, like, and that's what he said. And Aaron Parnes, right before I came on, I was watching his morning update, and he was like, folks inside of the White House, inside of the West Wing, are rattled at the fact that Donald Trump can't stay on message. And I'm like, and news at 11, water is wet. Like, the man has never stayed on message, so I don't understand why this is a shock. But to me, when I listen to Donald Trump now, right? He's playing the same old hits, right, that he did in 2016, and that he did in 2021. He's doing that because he's got nothing else to give, and
There you
he's
go.
thinking that it's going to be hit. It's going to hit in the same way that it did. My my anger consistently falls at the feet of mainstream corporate media who did not make a big enough deal over Donald Trump calling these countries shithole countries the first time around. Look at America. Look at America right now. 75% of Americans can't afford a home, right? 20 million Americans are about to get kicked off of their health care, or their subsidies are going to go through the fucking roof if they don't have a plan, which, by the way, Republicans haven't had a plan for Obamacare in 15 fucking years, right? You look at the fact that majority of kids who are going to college right now are leaving with 6 figures worth of debt. And now, guess what? There are no jobs, because how exciting is AI that now I don't need to hire entry level workers and I don't need to hire middle management, because let's pour into this $1 trillion fucking hole that is sucking up our natural resources, sucking up actual real land and water, right? And not hiring anybody. Right? It's literally, we are creating skeleton centers run by AI for AI, right? That is literally working, as we see, to chip away at the crumbs that are left of the American dream. So I look at what Donald Trump is saying, and that he seems to be like, it's like when a record it moves out of the groove and it just keeps skipping. Like, that's Donald Trump right now, talking about shithole country, like, looking for the laugh line, looking for the applause. And it's like, if I am Chad and Brad in them in Rusty, Pennsylvania, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't give a fuck that you don't like the Somalis. I can't afford my mortgage. I can't afford rent. I can't afford groceries. So what is does your hate actually pay? Like, is it putting food on my table? It's not. And so I don't know. I look at this and I think that, yes, it's failing, but if I were a party that legitimately still believed in democracy and elections, which they don't, you would be seeing a massive pivot right now. When you're talking, we're talking, Harry Enton and other folks are talking about numbers, -30, -50, -4. We've never seen anything like this in the history of politics. Like, ever. Maybe -2, maybe -4 within the margin of error. You're talking about -30, 40, 50, depending on what community you're talking to and what issue you're talking about. If they believed that they were going to actually have to run midterms, Waj, I think that they would be moving differently. And the fact that they're not panicked, that they're not trying to throw Americans a bone, just leads me to believe that the escalation that you and I have been talking about on Democracy-ish is about to get started in ways that, like, we're not going to be able to wrap our heads around, because they ain't trying to get votes. They're not trying to get constituents.
Look, this is where we differ from many of our pundits who are seen as professional and establishment and are paid a lot more money than us to be wrong, is we don't suffer from a failure of imagination. We warned because our eyes are wide open and we pay attention to the evidence of our ears and our eyes, that Donald Trump is a white supremacist president who doesn't care about the Constitution or the rule of law. He will not leave peacefully in the first administration. And what happened? What happened, Daniel? A violent insurrection.
Yep.
My fear, which I shared yesterday with Glenn Kirshner, I was on with him, was as they escalate, as he get more desperate, as he is a New York City sewer rat, no offense to New York City sewer rats, and he's cornered. We have seen this man will throw anything and everyone under the bus just to survive. And my fear has always been to pay attention to them because since the summer, Stephen Miller has attempted, and this administration has attempted, I think, at least 3 Reichstag fires. The Reichstag fire, of course, was that infamous fire that the Nazis used to gain control through martial law and then made Hitler into a dictator. And they blamed it on the communists. But history says that maybe it was actually caused by the Nazis themselves. But I digress. Regardless, it was used as a justification to voluntarily give Hitler power, Insurrection Act, martial law, go against all, finish all the critiques and criticisms. And then he became a dictator and we got the Third Reich. Well, in the summer, the Wall Street Journal reported that Stephen Miller deliberately unleashed ICE agents against Home Depot and 7-Eleven because he wanted a crisis. Thankfully, the Latino organizers, praised by the LAPD, responded peacefully. Then the second attempt at the Reichstag fire was the murder of Charlie Kirk, done by Tyler Robinson, allegedly. Not
Yep.
trans, not Somali, not Haitian, not Muslim, a white man. We never heard about him again. And remember, before there was ever a suspect, because Kash Patel was wearing that women's medium FBI jacket and partying with his honeypot girlfriend, Donald Trump went on, told the world, blame this on left-wing terror, left-wing rhetoric. And Stephen Miller said, Charlie Kirk told me before he died, we have to, save America. We're going to go after the left and Antifa, right? That was your second Reichstag fire. More and more people heard about Charlie Kirk. They're like, this guy's a freak. Why does the right wing love him so much? And then the third Reichstag fire, going back to Thanksgiving, 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
was the Afghan national, who was the suspect who
Mhm.
shot and killed the 2
Mhm.
National Guard
Mhm.
members. And you saw in Thanksgiving midnight, instead of him being a normal human being and like saying, Happy Thanksgiving, I'm going to pardon a turkey, let me spend time with my wife who hates me, who's not here, he did that rant, right? Talking about sending us back to third world countries. And then Kristi Noem said, complete travel ban. Now that travel bans reach anywhere from 19 to 31 countries. And then they went after Somalis. Then he called them garbage people. And now they're talking about remigrate, which is a Nazi term. So they've gone all in, like you said, on this failed strategy because that's the only play that they have. The scary part, well, this was all scary, but the scary part is throughout the summer, folks, Stephen Miller has repeatedly invoked the word insurrection, 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 insurrection. And then Pam Bondi talked about the Insurrection Act. And when Donald Trump was asked, will you invoke the Insurrection Act? I think it was a month ago. He didn't say no. And so what me and Danielle have been saying, and I hope we are wrong, and I hope we are proven wrong, is if they realize, oh shit, we're going to lose the House. If they realize, oh shit, we're going to lose the Senate. If they realize, oh shit, there might be economic boycotts. If they realize their own base will splinter. My fear has always
Mhm.
been before the elections, they will say, you know what? All this instability and violence caused by the drug traffickers and the migrants and the rapists and the criminals. I'm going to punt on these midterm elections just for a little bit. So, as the commander in chief, I can restore law and order. But don't you worry, these elections will happen again. And my fear is he already has normalized the National Guard in the streets. He's normalized the military on the streets. He's normalized ICE agents on the street. My fear is he will. My fear is he will go for the Insurrection Act and implement martial law. Danielle.
Yeah, I mean, look, everything that you just laid out. Also, I will add to that yesterday, Pete Kegsbreath was on Capitol Hill, right, where he was going back and forth with members of the Intel Committee. And when he came out to do a scrum with reporters, he said, we're going to shut DC down. Did you see that? Did you see that clip where he said that we're bringing in more military, we're bringing in more things, and we're going to shut DC down? So everything that you just laid out, right, is exactly what it is that they are doing. They have no intention to have midterm elections. One, the Supreme Court is absolutely going to gut the Voting Rights Act. They're also going to fucking gut the Constitution while they're at it and get rid of birthright citizenship. But that's a conversation for another day.
I have a different
We,
spin on that. I have a different spin on that.
okay,
I'll tell you why.
look, we are, is there something higher than a 5-alarm fire? Is there such a thing as like a 10-alarm fire? Because that's exactly where we are. Every single Reichstag fire that you named, they were hoping, praying, counting on the American people flooding into the streets on absolute mayhem so that they could have the imagery necessary to sell this idea of flooding the military into our streets, beating people, detaining people, throwing them in. That's what they've wanted. 11 months, Waj. They haven't been able to get it. 11 months, the American people have remained peaceful, have remained strategic, right? Have been finding ways. I mean, they just did an ICE training uh over here in Brooklyn. Over 1,000 people showed up
Yep.
to get the right ICE training because everyone knows that they are looking for a fight. They are itching for their Tiananmen Square. They want that moment to say, see, we told you they were violent. We told you that they needed to be that they needed to be stomped out. And this is what we're gonna do. I honestly believe the American people ain't gonna do it.
Yeah.
They would rather, I think that we are going to see more boycotts in 2026. I think that one, because people are broke, we're going to see less spending in 2026 and more strategic, thoughtful spending with small businesses. But I think that they keep trying to throw these Reichstag moments to create them, and it's not working, right? But they're going, I feel like they're sitting around in the Situation Room trying to shake Donald Trump awake as he's fucking passing out, drooling at the table and saying, what about this? What about this, boss? What if we do this next? What if we do this? So I feel like whatever they're cooking up is going to be on some cuckoo Scooby-Doo shit.
Yeah, it's gonna be cuckoo Scooby Doo shit that's not gonna work. And that doesn't mean though it won't cause immense damage, folks. That's
Right.
what we want to. It's gonna be violent, ugly, gross, and it'll ultimately hurt the United States of America. I don't think it'll be successful, but we should still have our eyes wide open. And the people who aren't paying attention to this or talking about it, where have you been? Okay, is your head in the sand? This man incited a violent insurrection. This man pardoned 1,600 insurrectionists, including the violent ones, including those ones convicted for acts of sedition. One of those guys, by the way, was just arrested for sexually assaulting a kid, a minor. This is a man who makes Ashley Babbitt into a martyr. This is a man who has openly said, I would like to be a dictator for a day. I want to terminate the Constitution. Praises MBS, praises Russian authoritarian leaders, has unleashed the National Guard against the enemy of the people. His words, also Hitler's words. What more do you need to see? This is a man who openly said, I want 150 seats, gerrymandered, gerrymandered, gerrymandered. And Texas was like, okay. And the Supreme Court, which is completely corrupt, is going to rubber stamp everything. They also, a year and a half ago, remember, Danielle, said, Trump, you get absolute immunity. And then this week they said, oh, yeah, Trump, who cares about the Constitution? Who cares about separation of powers, checks and balances? Go ahead and fire independent agencies. Oh, but Joe Biden, how dare you try to do student loan? You're just the president. There's also Congress, right? Go ahead and use affirmative action to crack brown and black skulls, but you can't have affirmative action in schools. This is happening in real time. They're going to gut the Voting Rights Act. They went against a Trump-appointed district judge who used the Republicans' own words, proving racial gerrymandering, to say, meh, who doesn't gerrymander? Get along with it. So he has a Supreme Court. He has the House, he has the Senate, he has corporate media now. We could talk about that. He has ICE. However, he doesn't have the people. And furthermore, I don't think he has enough Republican support as well, because about 20 plus people, and this was before Eileen Higgins won in Miami yesterday. This was before the Democrat won the special election in Georgia yesterday, despite the dummy-mandered. They're going to announce their resignations, apparently. You saw Marjorie Taylor Greene now openly making fun of Donald Trump, saying, I'm not MAGA, I'm America first. You saw Tucker Carlson, and let me quote Tucker Carlson.
Hmm.
Give me a second, I have this for you. Now you're seeing Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes go against him. They're going against all these people. I have a quote, give it to me. I had it all saved up for you. This is Tucker Carlson slamming Kash Patel and Don Bongino. I just don't have a ton of confidence in the FBI and the men who run it. And I'm not saying that out of ignorance. And this dumb Twitter shit, leaders of the FBI are on Twitter? What? That was him mocking them because Candace Owens has also turned on the FBI and Kash Patel. There are more conspiracy theories about Charlie Kirk's murder. And then you also have Tucker Carlson mocking and ridiculing the people in power right now, calling them dumb. Who is dumb? The most depressing thing about the United States in 2025 is that we're led not just by bad people, but by unimpressive, dumb people. That's Tucker Carlson. Republicans have the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, and the White House. So you saw Marjorie Taylor Greene defect. You see Tucker Carlson taking shots. You see Tucker Carlson aligning with Nick Fuentes. You see the Heritage Foundation cracking because they didn't throw Tucker Carlson under the bus. You saw Thomas Massey going all in with releasing the Epstein files. You saw also, I think, that Utah Republican who appeared with Josh Shapiro yesterday on CNN, openly blaming Donald Trump, rejecting his hate. This is Utah Republican Governor Spencer Cox. Quote, Trump's not interested in uniting the country. And he would tell you that if we were sitting here with us
Newsflash.
tonight. So you see all that. And then when the economy, I had some receipts for you. This came out today. U.S. manufacturers slow orders ahead of Supreme Court tariff ruling from the Wall Street Journal. We have lost billions of dollars from tourism because foreigners aren't coming to our country. As you already mentioned, electricity bills, utility bills have gone up, grocery prices have gone up. Triple Trumpers are now complaining that they can't afford to live. And Donald Trump said affordability is a con because he can't stay on message. So you have a terrible economy that's getting worse. And you have Steve Bannon now coming out against AI because he realizes that if AI is successful, what happens? All of the manufacturing, the Rust Belt, gone. Not just manufacturing, folks. A lot of the middle level jobs, right? Even some radiologists, they're gone. What will happen in the economy and the labor force? Crushed. Billionaires will get more money. So you're seeing these fissures. Folks, these are real fissures. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens openly said, yesterday, Tim Pool is against Candace Owens, and Tim Pool says, I don't have money. That effing Candace Owens, I can't believe she's criticizing our government. She doesn't care about the midterms. And Candace Owens says, I don't care about the midterms. So they're regrouping. They're going to retreat and regroup with something far worse. But the
Oh, yeah.
coalition is cracking, Danielle.
I mean, the coalition is cracking, but I think that the reality is that we have to understand that what comes after Donald Trump is not going to be a Mitt Romney. What comes
Oh, no.
after Donald Trump is going to be a Nick Fuentes,
There
right?
you go.
What comes after Donald Trump is going to be full out Nazi, right? And so I think that what we have to brace ourselves for and what we have to understand, and this is where Donald Trump diverges from other dictators and other authoritarians, is that he is giving nothing to the people, right? Every regime gives the people something, right?
Some.
Whether it's you give them housing, you give them health care, you give them, better literacy, you give them free college, you give them something to hang on that makes them like swallow your bad shit, but at least we have X. They're not doing that. They're not interested in doing that. And so to your point about not having the people on their side, this is where the bet is going to go bad, right? Like, they have to bribe people to join ICE, right? And who are we seeing that are joining ICE? They're fat and they're fucking stupid, right? And and don't take my word for it. Read the reports that are out there about the fact that these people can't pass physical fitness tests. They can't pass basic literacy tests. Like, they don't know shit and they can't do shit, right? Which is essentially like MAGA in a nutshell. At the end of the day, though, my deepest concern, and I want to get your thoughts about this. You see certain things that are happening, right? So Donald Trump decided this week, let me throw $12 billion at the farmers, right? Let me tell you, let me have bobblehead Barbie Caroline Levitt, get on television and tell folks that, like, you are going to get this $12 billion because it's a surplus from the tariffs. The tariffs are a consumer tax on the American people. That surplus is not a surplus. It's the money that we are paying for things that should be cheaper that have now gone through the roof because of the tariffs that Donald Trump has put on them. When asked, are the tariffs failing? And is that why you are giving the $12 billion to the farmers? No, no, no. The tariffs are successful. And that's why we're giving the $12 billion to the farmers. The farmers say, we don't want to bail out. We actually just want to be able to do business. And you fucked with our business by fucking with China and giving like $40 billion to Argentina. My question to you is, like, do you think that they are stupid enough? I mean, but I guess that they are. Aren't they stupid enough to fall for this and think like, oh, Donald Trump is doing us a solid, like Donald Trump is our hero, because that's how he's trying to position himself. Look at what I've created for you. And it's like, we're here because you don't know how to manage shit. We're here because, like, you've bankrupted everything. You don't know how to manage this economy, and you're purposefully driving the dollar down so that crypto goes up and so that your other grifting scheme can continue to make money. Like, are they going to fall for this?
Yes. The cult, as someone said, runs deep. If you look, I always push back, folks, if you can, when they say, well, half the country, when corporate American establishment needs to half the country like him. He's never had half the country. He's never cracked 50%. If you look at the votes, 34%, because a third of voters that could vote don't vote. And I think that number, even that 34% number, that number has slipped now. So if you even look at the numbers in the data with Latinos jettisoning him, women jettisoning him, especially young people jettisoning him, he's probably down to 30%. And I think that number might go down to 27%, 26%. Throughout U.S.
Yeah.
history, Danielle, you have seen 25 to 30% of America always does the wrong thing. Always. And I've always said,
Yeah.
for anyone who's been reading me for years, that we have lost about 30% of this country for my lifetime. I look at all the data going back 10 years, and it always seems to be about 30%, right? The thing is, they can't afford to lose even 2%. Steve Bannon knew this. He said, okay, we'll win the majority of whites, and we'll crack just enough of the people of color, and then with all their gerrymandering and, killing the voting rights and yada, 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 we'll barely win, and we can run for the next 40 years, especially with the Supreme Court. But now what they're seeing is traditional hardcore Republican Latino voters are fleeing. Young voters are fleeing. And furthermore, he's losing about 5 to 10% of those people who voted for him in 2024 that were MAGA. Like, even 5 to 10% they can't afford. And
Yeah.
furthermore, that big chunk, that low information, disinterested third of the voting population that doesn't vote, I think they're going to be activated. So I believe if and even Glenn agrees with us. This is Glenn, former federal prosecutor. He agreed with me. I'm like, Glenn, I'm always seen as the crazy person. He goes, nope, I agree with you. He agreed with me when it comes to the threat of with Insurrection Act, martial law. And he said, if we have free and fair elections, this is going to be a wipeout. You've seen all of it,
Yep.
right? But Donald Trump is a man, and I've used this analogy before. The movie Tenet by Christopher Nolan with Kenneth Branagh played like this Russian oligarch, and he got cancer. So he said, well, if I'm going to die, all of humanity has to die with me, right? That was his supervillain plot. And I think Donald Trump is a man who's dying. We'll talk about that in a second. And I think he's going to bring everything down. Now, how this connects to white supremacy, the analogy that you and I have given, also Jonathan Metzl, who wrote the book Dying of Whiteness, has given, is if given a choice between sharing a house with us or burning down the house, they'll burn down the village. His book, Dying of Whiteness. So to your point, they'll die for white supremacy. They'll die. Like at the Pennsylvania rally, folks, there was a woman. If you took that clip out of isolation, a white woman, somewhat youngish, saying, I can't pay my bills. I can't afford anything. Everything's worse. And she was at the Trump rally. I'm like, what? So these people will die for white supremacy. These folks are in a cult. They're radicalized. I hope I'm wrong. We've lost about 25 to 30% of our country for our lifetime. However, that ain't the majority. And what I've always said, Danielle, is if you get the majority and combine our forces, there's too many of us. There's too many of us. And this is why I don't think even a lot of Republicans are on board with the martial law, because a lot of the Republicans see where the wind is blowing. They realize they don't have the numbers. their own constituents in these red states. You've seen the angry town halls. They're pissed
Mhm.
off. They know what have we always said? It ain't the liberals who got guns. Who's got the guns, Danielle?
It's them.
Who tried to kill Donald Trump? A former Trump voter. Who tried to kill him in Florida? The guy who just got sentenced, a former Trump voter, right?
Allegedly.
They know that their base is radicalized. And Mitt Romney admitted it 2 years ago when he was releasing his memoir. He said, my Republican colleagues aren't scared of Antifa or the left. They're scared of their own base. So, as this is like, folks, it's going to get worse. But I think this is a guy literally willing to incite a violent insurrection for an election that he lost by 8 million votes. And he's so petty that at Mar-a-Lago, he's still, you guys saw that, right? At Mar-a-Lago, at these events, at these parties, he's still, because it's such a petty, fragile little bitch, he still puts up the video saying, I won 2020. I won 2020. Do you think a guy like that will go down quietly? And then furthermore, this news just came out 30 minutes ago, Reuters. Trump officials are worried the International Criminal Court, ICC, may try to prosecute them for war crimes once Trump terms once Trump's term ends. And are threatening sanctions against the ICC to change its founding documents to grant them immunity. Danielle, if you know you committed a bunch of crimes, like, oh, I don't know, killing Venezuelan fishermen, and I don't know, illegally perhaps disobeying judges' orders, and maybe, oh, I don't know, doing a whole bunch of grift and self-dealing with crypto, and on and on and on and on. Why would you voluntarily resign or give up power if you know that by giving up power, you are rendering yourself to be held accountable for your numerous crimes, Danielle?
But this is the same reason why Donald Trump announced well ahead of schedule that he was running in 2024, because he knew that if he didn't become president again, right, what was going to happen? He was all of those cases that fucking sloth of a man, Merrick Garland, took 2 years to fucking put together and get an independent attorney to start to hear those cases. He knew that if he didn't run this clock, he was going to jail. Right? So it's the same. So when you put a bunch of fucking rabid rats into a corner, what do you think that they're going to do? They're going to chew through the fucking wall and anybody that stands in their way. So for anyone that honestly thinks that this regime is just going to casually sit back and watch as like they lose a free and fair election, folks, like, wake up. Like, that's not what's going to happen here. And so my whole thing, and I go back to this on a regular fucking basis. We need a national strike. We need a national strike to happen well before midterm elections. We need a rolling national strike that begins with transportation, that goes to our teachers, that goes to our healthcare workers, that goes to all of the essential workers that now all of a sudden we're thrown under the bus and we don't give a fuck about. The only way to stop this regime, no one, not any group in history has voted their way out of fascism. Not any fucking country. So in my mind, yes, we can have these conversations, but we know that those that are in power are rabid rats against the wall. If they are not in power, they know they're going to jail. They are saying this shit out loud. Steve Bannon stood up on a stage and said, if we don't run him again in 2028, we're going to jail. He's like, people in this room, as he was standing up on a stage, are going to go to jail. Who the fuck says that? I know you and I never talk about going to jail because guess what? We don't crime. We don't do illegal shit. So here's what we have to understand. The majority that you're talking about, the 70% of Americans that need to wake up, the 70% of Americans that still need to understand their power, the power isn't only in the vote. The power is in how we fuel this economy, the economy that is extracting every bit of energy, money, life from the rest of us, right? Like, we have got to starve this beast in order to survive. And until people wrap their minds around that, it can't just be a conversation about go vote, when you just listed all of the institutions that are rigged against our ability to have free and fair elections. Like, the institutions are not falling, dear friends. They have fallen. They're done. It's a wrap.
Yeah, and the damage that he's done in a year is generational, according to everyone here in DC and Virginia that I've talked to, when it comes to both healthcare, when it comes to national security, when it comes to foreign alliances, when it comes to the economy. Generational damage to America, our institutions, corporate media. That's a wrap. And furthermore, when you were talking about the economy, I think it's very important. The color that trumps even the color white in this country is the color green. In God we trust. Our religious holiday is Black Friday, right? And this country and a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump, they were fine with the white supremacy and the racism and the misogyny and the violent insurrection because they're like, you know what? The economy sucks. I want more money. Now, in addition to the cruelty and the hate, they realize, oh shit, I don't have money. And furthermore, these healthcare subsidies are about to expire. So now healthcare is going to spike. And then furthermore, we haven't even talked about the largest wealth transfer in American history, the big beautiful bill, which guts Medicaid to the tune of what is that, $1 trillion to pay for the tax cuts for the rich. So
Permanent
everything is about
tax
to
cuts for the
permanent
rich.
tax cuts for the
Permanent.
rich and also funds ICE and makes them the 17th largest army in the world. So this is all coming down the pipeline. More and more people are going to get radicalized. Rust Belt hospitals are going to shut down. Rust Belt nursing homes are going to shut down. It's going to affect prenatal care, postnatal care. A lot of people are going to die, folks. And
Mhm.
so what we've noticed is they love money. The institutions, the establishment, corporate America loves money. The only reason that Jimmy Kimmel got back and got a 1 year extension is because people, for a couple of days, decided, just like I did, even though I have 3 kids, to do what? Cancel Disney Plus. The shareholders got so pissed off at Disney, just like that, Jimmy Kimmel went back. And now, once the economy turns, and especially as the economy's gone so bad, and especially as these billionaires are so brazen with their supervillain plot, people hate these people. Have you seen Sam Altman on Jimmy Fallon? The OpenAI guy looked like a freak. Alex Karp coked out of his mind.
Oh
Elon
my
Musk.
God. That
Yeah,
was fucking nuts.
I think all of these billionaires, I really people interview them all. Palantir's Alex Karp, Peter Thiel, Sam Altman, Elon Musk, put them on prime time, Danielle, and interview them. And the more and more people see them, I guarantee you the sheen, the veneer of this billionaire genius. People are like, these guys are freaks. They're racist. They're total weirdos. We're losing our economy to these people. These people are drinking all of our milkshake. The anger will rise and rise and rise. So I will say this, though, which will disturb you. I have a few really, really rich friends, and it's really important to get their perspective because they live in rarefied air. And they go to these Muslim countries, and I'm like, dude, what do these people think? Like in the Saudis and the Qataris, in the UAE about all this hate and racism. He goes, business as usual. They don't care. They're lining their pockets. Who put in money with the Ellisons to buy Paramount? Saudis. Who has bought up Arizona Water? Saudis. Who gave Donald Trump a jet and said, "Okay, open up a resort in Doha"? Qatar. They don't care. The rich don't care except when it affects their bottom line. So I think the next step when things get worse, and they will get worse, is going to be the economic boycott. But I do want to ask you this, Danielle, because
Mm.
we talked about Trump is dying. Trump revealed in a rambling, insane post yesterday that he admitted this, folks. He was admitted another cognitive exam, a test given to patients to detect dementia. In addition to the medical, I've done something that no other president has done on 3 separate occasions. The last one being recently by taking what is known as cognitive examinations. Why did you take 3 cognitive tests?
Cause you fucking
Why?
crazy. That's why.
Why have you done
Cause your
two
shit is
MRIs in 6 months?
cause your
He's
shit is
dying,
not
Danielle.
wired right. That's why.
He's
Like,
dying.
I mean, is he dying or is he losing his mind?
Both.
Plenty of people, have dementia for many, 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 many years after diagnosis before before they pass, and so I think, but it is obvious. It is obvious that he is not cognitively with us, right? Like it is obvious that he is being puppeteered, right? And that he when he goes off script, right? The only thing that he can go back to, like I said at the top, are his old hits because it's the thing that he remembers, right? Like, dementia patients, they loop. They have like loops in terms of like their speech and their memory of things that like they hold on to. That's what Donald Trump is doing. But like, even if he does die, even if he does die, Wash, what are we left with? Peter Thiel's puppet, J.D. Vance. We're still left with Stephen Miller. We're still left with all of these horrific, dumb people, right? Who are stupid and cruel. And so while I want to revel in that, I'm like, I don't really know how it serves us, because right as we're speaking, because I know that we have to go soon, but I did want to get your thoughts on this. Right as we're speaking, the United States has stolen an oil tanker, seized it from Venezuela, right? Like, we are going full-fledged to war, because when you start taking shit from people, even though Venezuela does not have a military that can combat the United States, guess what? They thought the same thing when they went into Vietnam. That didn't work out well for us when you started putting folks on the ground in Vietnam, right? So they are getting ready to amp up, to escalate here at home and here at abroad, which means that they are going to be stretched really fucking thin. Tell me I want to know your thoughts on this seizure and where you think it goes.
The death rattle of white supremacy has turned into a death march. They're playing for all the marbles. This is Stephen Miller's grand plan since he was in ninth grade. This is what gets him up at night. This is his wet dream. Russell Vaught is a white Christian nationalist. Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, they are billionaires. They want white power. They want control. They're willing to burn it all down. This is it. This is this is their like Custer's last stand, folks. This is what we're dealing with. Because I'll tell you, in the past week, once you go full Nazi, there's really no way to go back. They've gone full Nazi, Danielle. When you use the words remigrate, when it's tweeted twice from the Department of Homeland Security, when it is echoed by the mainstream MAGA folks, how do you walk that back? Remigrate is a white nationalist term for ethnic cleansing of black and brown people.
Yep.
Now that they've gone, it's like porn or like drugs, right? They need like something more I need you to choke me. After you've choked me, I need you to beat me. After you beat me, I need you to poop on me. After you poop on me, I need, it's more and more extreme, 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 extreme. Give me the latest hit, the latest hit. I don't want to shame anyone who does that, but you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so now think about it though. How do you go back once you've radicalized your base? They want us gone. They want us out. Now, literally, as of this week, they are now going to do social media checks on our allies coming from Europe. Essentially, they've paused pretty much most immigration. They've paused all the asylum processing. And what's happened, like we predicted with white supremacy, is if the rest of us are gone, the country turns into a shithole. The economy is tanking. Billions of dollars are lost. Our allies are turning away from us. So I think we have to keep our eyes wide open. This is a radicalized, violent minority playing for all the marbles. They do not care about democracy. They do not care about the rule of law. They care about power, self-preservation, and money. The good news is they are reckless. They're incompetent. They're not liked. And we have the majority. And the final thing I want to turn to you. I know you have to leave. I've said this before. I'll say it again because it's two parts. A Democratic centrist, a corporate crony, an establishment hack who will simply be a placeholder for the oligarchy, who will do business like usual. That is not the fighter that we need. This is a generational moment where we have to push for a generational fighter promising reform. It ain't going to be Newsom. It ain't going to be Alyssa Slotkin. Nope. It ain't going to be the Schumers. And if that's the case, we're going to have our first Nazi president in 2032 if we have elections. Danielle.
I mean, here's the thing. Somebody asked me yesterday for my Town Hall Tuesday on the Danielle Moody Show. They said, Danielle, if you could pick one of the voices that is out there right now to run for the presidency, if we're going to have an election in 2028, who would that be? And I was like, I have no idea. There is no one. Because to your point, the voices that are being elevated, Newsom, I don't trust him as far as I could fucking throw him. He began the year with platforming Charlie Kirk, with platforming Steve Bannon, right? Like, that's how he began the year, throwing trans people under the bus and saying, like, oh, the right wing isn't so bad. We have some things that we have in common. Like, folks, run the tape, right? That was
This week,
that was
just this week,
just
run the tape
right.
where he
That was
wouldn't tax the rich.
oh, we're not going to tax the rich because he doesn't want to ruin his ability to go to French Laundry up in fucking up in Napa. So you have him. You have JB Pritzker. Love his fight, love his fire. He's another white man billionaire, right? Like, who is like a moderate. So you see these people, and I'm just like, I don't know who rises. I don't know who rises. Pete Buttigieg, people say they love him. I'm like, Pete Buttigieg is like the fucking middle of the road, the most interesting thing about Pete Buttigieg is that he's gay, right? He can talk he talks the right talk to Fox, but when we're talking about, like, again, radical reformation, he
He's
ain't
not it.
it.
He ain't
He
it.
is not it. Right? So, like, again, folks, I right now, there is not a person that I could say, oh yeah, 2028, that's going to be their time. And that is terrifying to me.
But folks, a lot can happen in 2 years. Zoran Mamdani was a councilman, a simple assembly member, and less than a year ago, I interviewed him. He was a distant number two. Nobody knew him. A lot can happen, folks, and this is where people should rise up and organize. You too can run for office. You too can run for city council. You too can run for assemblyman. You too can run for school board. You too can organize and mobilize. Folks, this is it. A generational moment that needs and demands generational change for our children. Uh, they're not going to give up. They're regrouping. I'm telling you, they're regrouping. Please pay attention to this. I've been following these folks for 15 years. They ain't going to give it up. When Marjorie Taylor Greene says America first, yeah, that's also what Nick Fuentes says. They're regrouping. They're going to play for all the marbles, but we have the numbers. Danielle, before I let you go, shamelessly promote yourself.
Thank you, my friend. Folks, you are watching this on the Left Hook as well as the Damn Digest. I am running a special right now until Christmas Eve. You know that all of my content, like Waj, remains completely and totally free. But I'm running a special for those that do have the resources. Do consider becoming a paid subscriber to the channel. It allows us independent creators to keep fighting, to keep doing the work that we believe that we're called to do. Do check out my YouTube channel, the Danielle Moody channel. I'm getting ready to prepare for my nighttime show, the Danielle Moody Show, which is at 5 p.m. Eastern. It runs here on the Damn Digest and on YouTube at the same time. Please, please, please consider subscribing. Regardless, liking, commenting, sharing. But if you do have the resources, think about becoming a paid subscriber.
What's the link? People are asking for the discount.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's on my page. It's on my page. I will drop it in. Again, I think it's like hashtag damn holiday sale. But if you go on my page, it says damn holiday sale.
We'll be back Friday, 12 p.m., and I'll be on in 15 minutes with Jim Acosta on his show. And I also have a discount running. It's right there. Everything is free regardless. But if you want to help, we're independent. It's like $3.80 a month, $38 a month. It goes a long way. And a lot of people have availed it because I know times are tough. So even that $12 off, people said, oh, thank you, I can afford it. So that's wonderful. If you can, wonderful. If you can't, just subscribe. Subscribe to Danielle's YouTube channel as well. I'll be back at 4:20 with Jim Acosta, and I'll be back at 5 with Lev, and we will be back at 12 p.m. and then Friday, and then Danielle's on her show at 5 p.m. tonight. Take care, everyone. Be kind, and don't be a fascist. Thank you, Danielle.
Bye.